The dog finds him first. Wade Palmer is walking home from the Greyhound bus stop on Route 9 in Brattleboro, Vermont at 11:40 on a Thursday night in January, when the snow is falling so thick that the streetlights look like smudges of yellow paint on a white canvas, and the temperature has dropped to 9 degrees, and his boots are punching through a crust of ice with every step, and a dog appears out of the dark. A golden retriever, full-grown, maybe 60 pounds, shaking hard enough that Wade can hear the collar tags ringing from 10 feet away. The dog's fur is matted with ice, its paws are bleeding. It stands in the middle of the road and looks at Wade with the particular desperation of an animal that has been lost long enough to understand that it is lost. Wade stops. He is 38 years old, broad-shouldered but thin in the way that men get thin when they skip meals so their daughters can eat, the kind of thin that hides under a Carhartt jacket and work boots, and the stubborn posture of a man who refuses to look like he's struggling even when he is. His face is wind-chapped, his dark brown hair cut short under a wool beanie, and his hands, large, scarred across the knuckles from warehouse work, are shoved deep in his jacket pockets because his gloves have a hole in the left thumb, and the cold finds the hole every time. "Hey," he says to the dog, "hey, come here." The dog doesn't move. It stands in the road, shaking, its breath coming in quick white clouds. Its eyes are brown and wide and afraid. Wade crouches down. The snow soaks through the knees of his jeans immediately. He extends one hand, palm up, the way his father taught him when he was a boy. Let the dog come to you. Don't reach for it. Let it decide. His father raised bird dogs in the hills outside Brattleboro, and before the drinking took everything, before the farm was sold and the dogs were scattered and the family disassembled itself the way families do when the center gives out, Wade's father taught him two things worth keeping: how to approach a frightened animal, and how to walk a long distance without quitting. The dog takes one step toward him, then another. Then it presses its wet, ice-crusted head into Wade's open palm and leans against his leg and exhales like it's been holding its breath for hours. "Okay," Wade says. "Okay, I got you." He looks at the collar. There's a tag, brass engraved, swinging from a leather strap. He angles it toward the nearest streetlight and reads, "Scout if found, please call 802-555-0147, Margaret Ellsworth, 14 Orchard Hill Road, Hillcrest." Wade reads the address twice. Hillcrest. He knows where Hillcrest is. Everyone in Brattleboro knows where Hillcrest is. It's the neighborhood on the ridge above town, where the old money lives in stone houses with slate roofs and iron gates and circular driveways that curve through landscaped grounds. It's the neighborhood you drive past on Route 30 and look up at and wonder what it's like to live in a house where the heat never shuts off and the refrigerator's always full. He also knows how far it is. 9 miles. 9 miles from where he's standing on Route 9 to Orchard Hill Road. 9 miles through a blizzard that the Weather Service has classified as a nor'easter with sustained winds of 35 miles per hour and a wind chill that makes 9 degrees feel like -15. 9 miles in boots that are waterproof in theory, but not in practice, because the left one has a crack in the sole that he's been meaning to fix for 2 months and hasn't, because the boot repair shop wants $40. And $40 is 2 days of gas money to get to the warehouse. He takes out his phone. It's a prepaid smartphone with a cracked screen and 12% battery. He dials the number on the tag. It rings, and rings, and rings. Voicemail. A woman's voice, elderly, precise. "You've reached Margaret Ellsworth. Please leave a message and I'll return your call." "Mrs. Ellsworth, my name is Wade Palmer. I found your dog Scout on Route 9. He's okay, but he's cold and his paws are bleeding. I'm going to bring him to you. I'm on foot, so it might take a while. I'll be there as soon as I can." He hangs up. He looks at the dog. The dog looks at him. 12% battery. 9 miles. A blizzard. He could take the dog to the fire station on Main Street. It's a quarter mile back the way he came. They'd hold Scout overnight, call the number in the morning, and Margaret Ellsworth would pick up her dog in a warm truck with the heat blasting. It would be the sensible thing to do. But Wade Palmer knows what it feels like to lose something you love and not know where it is. He knows what it feels like to lie awake at 2 in the morning, wondering if the thing you lost is cold or scared or hurt. He knows because he has a daughter, Birdie, 7 years old, sandy brown hair, a gap where her two front teeth used to be. And the thought of Birdie being lost somewhere in the dark, even for one night, even with someone kind, makes his chest constrict in a way that has nothing to do with the cold. Margaret Ellsworth is somewhere in that stone house on Orchard Hill Road, and she doesn't know where her dog is, and the snow is getting worse. "Come on, Scout," Wade says. He unzips his Carhartt jacket, picks the dog up, 60 pounds of shivering wet golden retriever, and holds him against his chest. The dog's ice-crusted fur soaks through Wade's flannel shirt in seconds. The cold hits his skin like a slap. He zips the jacket back up as far as it will go with the dog pressed against him and starts walking. 9 miles. Into the blizzard. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from today, because this story is about a man who had every reason to turn around and not one good enough to make him stop. The first mile is the easiest, because the first mile of anything is the easiest. Wade walks north on Route 9, Scout pressed against his chest inside the jacket, the dog's head tucked under Wade's chin. The wind is coming from the northeast, which means it hits Wade on the right side of his face and drives snow into his ear and down his collar. He can feel the ice crystals forming on his eyelashes. He blinks them away. His boots crunch through the snow with a rhythm that he times to his breathing. Step, breathe, the way his father taught him on long walks through the hills. His father. Wade hasn't thought about his father in months, Willis Palmer, a man who could track a pheasant through fog and who could drink a bottle of bourbon between dinner and midnight, and who taught his son to walk long distances and then walked away from his family on a Tuesday morning in November when Wade was 14. Wade found a note on the kitchen table, not an apology, not an explanation, just an address for a forwarding mailbox in New Hampshire, and the words, "I'm sorry I wasn't built for this." Wade was built for this. Whatever this is, the cold, the walk, the weight of a shivering dog against his chest, he was built for it. He doesn't know how. He doesn't know why. But he knows that his legs will keep moving and his arms will keep holding and his body will keep generating heat because that's what it does. That's what it's always done. When Birdie's mother left, not like Willis, not with a note, but with a text message from a number Wade didn't recognize, sent from a state he'd never been to, Wade's body kept moving. He went to work. He made dinner. He braided Birdie's hair, badly at first, then better, then well enough that she stopped complaining and started asking for French braids, which he learned from a YouTube video on his cracked phone at 2 a.m. while she slept. That was 3 years ago. Birdie is 7 now. She's asleep in their apartment on Flat Street, a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a building that smells like old carpet and radiator heat, with a window in Birdie's room that looks out on the parking lot of a laundromat and a kitchen where Wade cooks every meal because restaurants are not in the budget. She is being watched tonight by the woman next door, Mrs. Lund, 72, retired, who charges nothing, because she loves Birdie and because Wade shovels her sidewalk every time it snows without being asked, which in Vermont between November and April is roughly every 3 days. Wade works the night shift at the Brattleboro Freight Depot, a warehouse on the south end of town where trucks arrive between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m., loaded with pallets of goods bound for retailers across New England. He unloads trucks, he stacks pallets, he drives a forklift that has a broken heater and a steering column that pulls to the left. He makes $16.40 an hour, which comes to roughly $34,000 a year before taxes, which is enough to pay the rent and the electric and the gas and the grocery bill and Mrs. Lund's nothing charge and the school lunch account that he tops up every 2 weeks, so Birdie never has to stand in the line and say she can't pay. It is not enough for boot repair or new gloves or a car that starts reliably in winter. It is enough to survive. It is not enough to stop worrying. Tonight, Wade got off shift at 11. The bus, which runs hourly from the depot to Main Street, dropped him at 11:35. Normally, he walks the 8 blocks from the bus stop to Flat Street in 12 minutes. Tonight, a dog appeared out of the dark, and the 12-minute walk home became a 9-mile walk into a blizzard. He doesn't think about the 9 miles. He thinks about the next step. Mile 3. The road turns north on Route 30, and the wind shifts and hits him full in the face. The temperature has dropped to 6 degrees. The wind chill is somewhere below -15. Wade can no longer feel his left foot, the one with the cracked boot sole, and his hands, which are holding Scout against his chest inside the jacket, are stiff and clumsy. The dog has stopped shaking. This worries Wade more than the shaking did, because a dog that stops shivering and cold, this extreme, has either warmed up or is shutting down, and Scout has not warmed up. He talks to the dog. He talks to keep Scout alert and to keep himself moving and to fill the silence of a blizzard at midnight on an empty road. "My daughter would love you," he says. "She wants a dog. She's been asking since she was 4. I tell her we can't afford one, and she tells me dogs don't cost anything because they eat scraps, that's not how it works, but she's 7, and she believes things with her whole body. She believes in dogs the way some people believe in God, with this total commitment, like if she just wants it hard enough, a dog will appear." Scout shifts against his chest. The dog's nose is cold against Wade's neck. "She'd name you something ridiculous. She names everything. Her stuffed bear is called President Waffles. Her goldfish was called Dr. Midnight. The goldfish died in October, and we had a funeral in the bathroom, and she gave a eulogy that lasted 11 minutes. I timed it. 11 minutes for a goldfish she'd had for 3 weeks. She cried, I cried, we flushed Dr. Midnight, and she saluted. I don't know where she learned to salute." He walks. The snow is past his ankles now, and in places where the wind has sculpted drifts against the guardrails, it's past his knees. He climbs through a drift, and his left boot fills with snow, and the cold is so sudden and so complete that he gasps. He keeps walking. If this story has touched your heart, take a moment to share it and subscribe to Untold Hearts, because sometimes the longest walk of someone's life is the one nobody asked them to take. Mile 5. Halfway. Wade's phone is dead. It died at mile 4. The battery couldn't survive the cold, and with it went the map, the flashlight, and any possibility of calling for help. He is navigating by memory and road signs when he can see them through the snow. Route 30, north to Putney Road to Ridge Lane to Orchard Hill. He can't feel his feet anymore, either of them. His hands are numb inside the jacket, and he's moved Scout from his chest to his back, the dog draped over his shoulders like a 60-pound scarf, legs hanging, head resting against the side of Wade's neck. The weight is enormous. His shoulders burn. His lower back is a knot of pain that tightens with every step. He thinks about Birdie. He thinks about the morning routine, the alarm at 5:45, the coffee that he drinks standing up because sitting down means falling asleep, the sound of Birdie's feet on the hallway floor, the ritual of breakfast. She eats oatmeal with brown sugar and exactly 7 blueberries. Not 6. Not 8. 7. She counts them. She's been counting them since she was 5, and Wade has never asked why, because some things don't need explaining. They just need honoring. He thinks about the braids, the YouTube video. The first time he got it right, and Birdie looked in the mirror, and her face did something that broke him open. Not a smile exactly, but a settling, a satisfaction, the look of a child who has been seen by the one person whose seeing matters most. He thinks about the parent-teacher conference last month, where Birdie's teacher, a young woman with bright eyes and a voice that carried warmth the way a wood stove carries heat, told Wade that Birdie had written an essay about her hero. "She wrote about you," the teacher said. "She wrote that her dad makes oatmeal with 7 blueberries and braids her hair every morning and works at night so he can walk her to school in the daytime. She said you're the bravest person she knows." Wade sat in the small chair at the small desk in the fluorescent-lit classroom, and he pressed his palms flat on the desk, and he breathed through the feeling that was trying to dismantle him, and he said, "She's a good writer." "She's a remarkable writer," the teacher said, "and she has a remarkable father." Wade walked out of the school and sat in his truck, the truck that doesn't start reliably in winter, the truck with 240,000 miles and a heater that works on the 3rd try. And he sat there for 10 minutes, doing nothing. Just sitting, just letting the words settle. She said you're the bravest person she knows. He is on mile 5 of a 9-mile walk through a blizzard with a 60-pound dog on his shoulders and no phone and no feeling in his feet, and he is thinking about 7 blueberries and a French braid and a girl who thinks he is brave. He keeps walking. Mile 7. The road turns uphill. Ridge Lane climbs 400 feet in 2 miles. A gentle grade in summer, a brutal slog in a blizzard with a dog on your back and boots full of snow. Wade's legs are shaking, not from cold, from exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that lives in the muscles, that makes the thighs burn and the calves seize and the knees feel like they're grinding sand instead of cartilage. He thinks about quitting. This is the first time in 9 miles that the thought arrives in clear, articulate form, not as a feeling, but as a sentence. You could stop. You could set the dog down and sit against the guardrail and wait for a plow truck. Someone would come. Someone always comes eventually. But that's not true. And Wade knows it. No one comes at 1 in the morning on Ridge Lane in a blizzard. The plows work the state routes first, Route 9, Route 30, the roads that matter to the economy. Ridge Lane is a town road. It will be plowed after dawn, maybe later. If Wade sits down against the guardrail with a 60-pound dog in his arms and the wind chill at -20, he will fall asleep. And if he falls asleep, he will not wake up. And if he does not wake up, Bertie will go to school tomorrow morning and her father will not be there to walk her, and Mrs. Lund will call the warehouse, and the warehouse will say he never clocked in, and Mrs. Lund will call the police, and the police will find him on Ridge Lane, frozen, with a dog in his arms and a crack in his boot, and a daughter who is 7 years old and already knows what it means to be left by someone who is supposed to stay. No. He doesn't stop. He doesn't sit down. He doesn't quit. Not because he is brave. Bravery is a word other people use to describe what you did after you've done it. In the moment, there is no bravery. There is only the next step, and the next, and the next. He puts Scout down. The dog can barely stand. His paws leave blood prints in the snow, small red flowers blooming and vanishing as the blizzard fills them in. Scout looks up at Wade. The dog's eyes are half closed. He's shutting down. "No," Wade says. "No, you don't. Not here. Not after 5 miles. He kneels in the snow beside the dog. He takes Scout's face in his hands, the dog's muzzle cold and wet against his numb palms. And he looks into the brown eyes and he says, "We're going home. Your home. Not mine, yours. And it's up that hill and it's not far now, and you're going to make it because I'm going to carry you and I don't drop things." The dog blinks. His tail moves once, a single exhausted wag. He takes off his beanie. He wraps it around Scout's front paws, tying it in a knot that his numb fingers can barely manage. It's not a solution. It's a gesture. But the dog's paws are off the snow, at least temporarily, and Wade picks him up again, back against his chest this time, cradled like a child. And he starts climbing. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, costs nothing, and it helps this story reach someone who needs to hear it tonight. Back to the story. The blizzard is at its worst on mile 8. The wind comes down off the ridge like something alive, not gusting but constant, a wall of air and ice that pushes against Wade's body with a force that makes him lean forward at a 45-degree angle just to keep moving. The snow is horizontal. It stings his face. He closes his eyes and walks by feel, the road beneath his feet, the rise of the shoulder, the crunch of gravel that tells him he's drifting too far right. He falls twice. The first time, he catches himself with one hand, Scout still clutched against his chest with the other. The second time, he goes down hard, both knees hitting the road, the impact sending a jolt of pain up through his thighs and into his hips. Scout yelps. Wade holds the dog tighter. He gets up. It takes a long time. Getting up from the ground in a blizzard with a 60-pound dog in your arms and no feeling in your feet is a process that requires negotiation with every muscle in your body, and some of those muscles are no longer accepting terms. But he gets up. Because that's what he does. Because somewhere on Flat Street, Bertie is asleep, and she wrote an essay that said her father is the bravest person she knows, and Wade Palmer is not going to make his daughter a liar. Not tonight, not for 9 miles, not for anything. Mile 8.5, the houses appear, Hillcrest, stone houses behind iron gates, slate roofs white with snow, circular driveways that disappear into the dark, porch lights that glow warm and gold through the blizzard, beacons that Wade walks toward the way a ship walks toward a lighthouse, with the desperate faith that the light means something solid is behind it. Orchard Hill Road. He can see the sign. The letters are half buried in snow, but he can read them. He turns. Number 14. Orchard Hill Road is a stone house set back from the road behind a low fieldstone wall. It has a slate roof and a red front door and a porch light that is on. The only porch light on the street that is on at 1:45 in the morning in the middle of a blizzard. Someone is awake. Someone is waiting for something that hasn't come home. Wade walks up the driveway. His legs are finished. They're operating on something beyond muscle, something closer to will or habit, or the particular stubbornness of a man who said he would do a thing and has never in his life failed to do a thing he said he would do. He climbs the porch steps. There are 4 of them. Each one takes a separate decision. He shifts Scout to one arm. He raises his free hand, the hand that is blue-white and stiff and barely capable of forming a fist, and he knocks on the red front door. If Untold Hearts has become part of your week, consider joining the channel membership. A few dollars a month keeps these stories coming. Links are below. Now, back to the story. Margaret Ellsworth has been awake since 6 o'clock yesterday evening. She is 79 years old. Tall even now. She was 5'10" in her youth and hasn't lost more than an inch. Her hair is white, cut short and neat, and her face has the angular structure of a woman who was striking at 30 and has become something more than striking at 79. She has the face of a person who has outlived vanity and arrived at a kind of severity that commands attention without requesting it. She wears a navy cardigan over a flannel nightgown, wool socks, no jewelry except a plain gold wedding band on her left hand that she has not removed in 53 years. Her husband, Walter, died 6 years ago. Heart attack. Quick, the doctor said he was gone before he hit the floor, which was supposed to be a comfort and was not. They had no children. This was a choice they made together in their 30s, a choice she has never regretted, though the house is large and the silence in it is the kind of silence that has weight. Scout was Walter's idea. 3 months before he died, he drove to a breeder in New Hampshire and came home with a 10-week-old golden retriever puppy and a bag of kibble and a look on his face that Margaret hadn't seen in years, the look of a man who has done something impulsive and wonderful and knows he's going to have to explain it. Every house needs a dog, he said. This house has 2 people and a cat, Margaret said. The cat is indifferent. A dog will care. He was right. Walter was often right about the things that mattered most, and wrong about the things that mattered least. He could read a person's character in 30 seconds, but couldn't balance a checkbook to save his life. He built the company on handshakes and trust and the particular Vermont stubbornness that says, I told you I'd do it and I'll do it, and if you don't believe me, you can watch. His crew stayed with him for 30 years because he paid them fairly, remembered their children's names, and showed up at their houses with a truck and a chainsaw when a storm brought a tree down. He was not a man who wrote checks from a distance. He was a man who drove to the problem and fixed it with his hands. Margaret thinks about this often. She thinks about Walter's hands, calloused, thick-fingered, permanently stained with joint compound and wood stain. She thinks about the way he built this house, stone by stone, literally, quarrying the fieldstone from a deposit on the property and laying each one himself because he wanted to know that every stone was placed right. It took him 3 years. Margaret said he was insane. He said he was building something that would outlast both of them. He was right about that too. Scout cared. Scout cared the way golden retrievers care, with his whole body, with a tail that never stopped moving, with a need to be in whatever room Margaret was in, to lie at her feet when she read, to press his head against her knee when she cried, which she did often in the first year after Walter died, and less often now, but still sometimes, late at night, in the silence of a house that was built for 2 and occupied by 1. Scout went missing yesterday afternoon. He slipped through the back gate. The latch was old. Walter had been meaning to fix it. It was on a list of things that would never be completed, and vanished into the snow. Margaret searched the yard, the street, the neighbors' properties. She called the police, the animal shelter, the vet. She put on her coat and walked the neighborhood in the dark, calling his name until her voice was raw, and a neighbor brought her home and told her to wait. She's been waiting for 8 hours. She's been sitting in the armchair by the front window, the porch light on, the phone in her lap, watching the snow fall and the street empty and the dark get darker. She has not slept. She has not eaten. She's sitting in the chair where Walter used to sit, wearing the cardigan she bought the week after he died, because it was navy and he loved navy, and wearing it felt like being held by someone who wasn't there anymore. Scout is all she has left of Walter. Not the house. The house is stone and wood and mortgage payments. Not the car. The car is metal and depreciation. Scout is the last living thing that Walter's hands touched, the last breathing proof that he existed, the last creature on earth that remembers him by smell. And Scout is gone. The knock comes at 1:45 in the morning. It is not loud. It is the knock of someone whose hands can barely form a fist. Margaret stands. She crosses the hallway. She opens the red front door. A man is standing on her porch. He is covered in snow. His face is blue-white. His lips are cracked. Ice has formed in his eyebrows and on the stubble of his jaw. He is holding a golden retriever against his chest. The dog wrapped inside his jacket, its head resting against his shoulder, its eyes half open, alive. The man's boots are soaked. His jeans are frozen stiff from the knees down. His beanie is missing. It's wrapped around the dog's paws, she'll discover later. His hands, when she sees them, are a color that hands should not be. "Mrs. Ellsworth," the man says. His voice is barely a whisper. "I found Scout." He holds the dog out to her. Margaret Ellsworth looks at the dog. She looks at the man. She looks at the snow behind him, the footprints that lead down the driveway and disappear into the blizzard. The only evidence that this man walked here, that he came from somewhere far enough away that the snow has already begun to erase the proof. Her knees give out. Not dramatically, not the way people collapse in movies, with a gasp and a fall. She simply stops being able to stand. The strength leaves her legs the way air leaves a balloon, quietly and completely, and she sinks to the threshold of her own front door, with her hands reaching for the dog and her face doing something that Wade has seen before, the same thing Bertie's face did when he got the braid right. A settling, a release, the look of someone who has been holding something together for hours and can finally let go. "Scout," she whispers. "Oh, Scout." The dog lifts his head. His tail moves. Once, weakly, he knows he's home. Wade stands on the porch, swaying. The delivery is complete. The 9 miles are behind him. The dog is home. He has done what he said he would do. "How far did you walk?" Margaret asks from the floor, her arms around the dog, her face buried in his ice-crusted fur. "About 9 miles, Wade says. "In this?" "Yes, ma'am." Margaret looks up at him. Her eyes are wet. Her face is severe and soft at the same time, the face of a woman who has buried a husband and searched for a dog and opened a door at 1:45 in the morning to find a stranger holding everything she has left in the world. "Come inside," she says. "Right now. Come inside." Wade doesn't remember crossing the threshold. He remembers the heat, the blast of warm air that hits his face and his hands and his frozen feet and turns the numbness into pain, which is actually a good sign, because pain means the nerves are still working. He remembers sitting on a bench in the hallway, a wooden bench with a cushion that probably cost more than his truck, and watching Margaret wrap Scout in a blanket and call the emergency vet and speak in a voice that is calm and commanding and shaking all at once. He remembers his boots. Margaret kneels in front of him and unlaces his boots, the cracked one and the good one, and pulls them off, and his socks are soaked and his feet are white, and she says, "We need warm water, not hot, warm. Can you feel your toes?" "No," Wade says. "That's okay, we'll fix that." She fills a basin with warm water and sets his feet in it. The pain is extraordinary, a burning that starts in his toes and climbs up through his arches and into his ankles, the nerves screaming as the blood returns. Wade grips the edge of the bench and breathes through it the way he breathed through the walk, step by step, moment by moment, because the only way through pain is through it. Scout is on the floor next to him, wrapped in a blanket, drinking water from a bowl Margaret filled. The dog's tail is moving steadily now. His eyes are open. He is looking at Wade with an expression that dogs have perfected over 10,000 years of partnership with humans, the look that says, "I know what you did." Margaret sits across from Wade in the hallway. She has made tea. She has put a mug in his hands that are slowly returning to their normal color, the white retreating to pink. The mug is warm. The tea is good. The house is warm. Everything is warm, and Wade is so tired that the warmth feels like a weight pressing him into the bench, into the floor, into the earth. "What's your name?" Margaret asks. "Wade Palmer." "Wade, where do you live?" "Flat Street, other side of town." That's 9 miles. Yes, ma'am. In a blizzard. It was snowing when I started. The blizzard part was... That developed. Margaret sets down her tea. She looks at him with the direct, assessing gaze of a woman who has spent 50 years managing a household and a charitable foundation and a life that required her to evaluate people quickly and accurately. Why? She asks. Why didn't you take him to the fire station? Or leave a message and bring him tomorrow? Wade thinks about this. He thinks about the answer that would make sense, the logical answer, the answer that a reasonable person would give to explain why a man with a 7-year-old daughter and a cracked boot and 12% battery walked 9 miles through a nor'easter to return a dog to a stranger. Because he was lost, Wade says, and you didn't know where he was, and I know what that feels like. Margaret is quiet. I have a daughter, Wade says. Birdie, she's 7. If she was out there, even for one night, even with someone kind, I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't be able to close my eyes. And I thought about you, in this house, not knowing where Scout was, and I couldn't... He stops. His voice is failing. The exhaustion is winning. I couldn't leave him at the fire station and let you go through the night not knowing. That's all. Margaret Ellsworth is not a woman who cries easily. She cried when Walter died. She cried when Scout went missing. She does not cry at movies or weddings or card commercials or any of the manufactured sentiments that are designed to trigger tears. She cries now, sitting in her hallway, holding a mug of tea, looking at a man in wet socks whose hands are still the wrong color. She cries the way people cry when they have been shown something they didn't believe still existed. Plain, ordinary, unasked for goodness. The kind that doesn't calculate. The kind that walks 9 miles. Stay tonight, she says. The guest room is upstairs. I'll drive you home in the morning. I need to call my neighbor. She's watching Birdie. Use my phone. Wade calls Mrs. Lund. He tells her he'll be late. He doesn't explain why, because explaining would require energy he doesn't have. Mrs. Lund says, Birdie's fine. She's sleeping like a rock. Take your time. Wade hangs up. He looks at Margaret. She looks at him. Between them on the floor, Scout has fallen asleep with his bandaged paws tucked under the blanket and his tail resting against Wade's foot. Thank you, Margaret says. You're welcome, Mrs. Ellsworth. Margaret. You're welcome, Margaret. He sleeps for 11 hours. He sleeps in a bed with sheets that feel like water and a mattress that doesn't sag and a window that looks out over an orchard, bare in January, the apple trees skeletal against the snow, the branches like dark handwriting on white paper. He sleeps the way soldiers sleep when they finally reach safety, completely, bottomlessly, without dreams. When he wakes, it is past noon. The blizzard has stopped, the sun is out, and the world outside the window is so white it hurts to look at. He checks his hands first. They are stiff, the fingers slow to close, but the color is right, pink, not white. He flexes them. The joints ache. The blisters from gripping Scout against his chest have formed overnight, and the skin across his knuckles is cracked from the cold, but the fingers work. The hands work. He will not lose anything. His feet are a different conversation. Margaret rewrapped them before he went to bed. Warm compresses, wool socks, an extra blanket folded at the foot of the bed. The left foot, the one with the cracked boot, took the worst of it. 2 toes are blistered and tender. The skin is raw, but they move. They respond. The nerves are angry but present. He puts his feet on the floor. The wood is cold and smooth. He stands. His legs hold. He goes downstairs. Margaret is in the kitchen, a kitchen with a farmhouse table and a 6-burner stove and copper pots hanging from a rack and a window that faces east, filling the room with light. She's making soup. Scout is lying on a dog bed by the stove, bandaged paws up, tail thumping when he sees Wade. Sit down, Margaret says. There's coffee. Wade sits. He drinks the coffee. It is the best coffee he has ever tasted, and he will later learn that it is the same brand sold at the gas station on Route 9 for $4 a bag. It is not the coffee that is different, it is the context. Everything tastes better when you are warm and alive and sitting in a kitchen with sunlight. Margaret drives him home at 2 o'clock. The roads have been plowed. The world is white and bright and still. She drives a navy blue Subaru, Walter's car, the odometer frozen at 63,000 miles, because Margaret only drives it to the store and the library and, now, to Flat Street. She pulls up in front of Wade's building. It looks different in the daylight, in the aftermath of a blizzard, with 2 feet of snow on the roof and icicles hanging from the fire escape. It looks like what it is. A building where people live because they can afford to live here and nowhere better. A building that is not a home so much as a container for the lives happening inside it. Wade opens the car door. "Thank you, Margaret." "Saturday," she says. "Bring Bertie. Scout wants to meet her." "You don't have to. Saturday, 10 o'clock. I'll make pancakes." Wade looks at her. She looks at him. Between them, in the back seat, there's a bag of groceries that Margaret packed while Wade was sleeping. Bread, eggs, milk, butter, a jar of peanut butter, a bag of blueberries, and a box of oatmeal. She didn't ask what he needed. She just packed what a kitchen needs. He carries the groceries upstairs. He opens the door to the apartment. Mrs. Lund is sitting on the couch watching a game show. Bertie is at the kitchen table drawing. "Daddy!" She's off the chair and running before Wade can set the groceries down. She hits him at full speed, 42 pounds of sandy brown hair and gap-toothed grin, and wraps her arms around his waist and squeezes with the particular ferocity of a child who does not yet know how to modulate affection. "Hey, Bird. Where were you? Mrs. Lund said you had to work late." "I did, sort of. I'll tell you about it." He tells her about it. He tells her at the kitchen table while he makes her oatmeal, with brown sugar and exactly 7 blueberries from Margaret's bag, and she listens with her whole body the way children listen to stories that involve dogs and snow and walking very far, which are 3 of the most compelling narrative elements available to a 7-year-old audience. "You carried the dog?" she says. 60 pounds, 9 miles. "That's like carrying me, and half of me again." "About right." "Were you scared?" Wade thinks about this. "No, I was cold. Cold and scared are different things." "What's the dog's name?" "Scout." Bertie's face lights up. She puts down her spoon. "Can we see him?" "Saturday. His owner invited us." Bertie jumps off the chair and runs to her room to pick out what she's going to wear to meet a dog named Scout on Saturday, which is 4 days away and requires, apparently, immediate wardrobe planning. Wade sits at the table. He eats the oatmeal Bertie left behind. No brown sugar, no blueberries, just plain oats and warm milk. It tastes like the best meal he's ever had. Margaret sits across from him. She sets a bowl of soup in front of him. Then she sets something else on the table, a folded check. "Don't open that yet," she says. "Margaret, I said don't open it yet. First, I want to tell you something." She folds her hands on the table. Her wedding band catches the light. "My husband Walter was a good man. Not a perfect man. No one is. But a good one. He built things. Buildings, mostly. He was a contractor. Started with nothing. Built a company. Built this house with his own hands. And a crew of 6 men who stayed with him for 30 years. He believed that you could tell everything about a person by what they do when no one's watching and nothing's in it for them." She looks at Wade. "You walked 9 miles in a blizzard to bring my dog home. No one was watching. Nothing was in it for you. You didn't know who I was. You didn't know what was waiting at the end of the driveway. You just knew that a dog was lost and someone was waiting. And you decided that was enough." She pushes the check toward him. "Open it." Wade unfolds the check. He reads the number. He reads it again. He sets it down on the table and presses his palms flat against the wood, the way he pressed them flat on the desk at Bertie's parent-teacher conference. And he breathes. "I can't accept this," he says. "You can, and you will. Margaret, this is what Walter would have done. This is exactly what Walter would have done. He would have written that check before you finished your first cup of coffee. He would have looked at your boots, the cracked one and the good one, and he would have driven you to the store and bought you new ones, and he wouldn't have let you argue about it. It's too much. You walked 9 miles in a blizzard for my dog. Tell me what too much means." Wade sits with the check on the table in front of him. The kitchen is quiet except for the tick of a clock on the wall, a grandfather clock, the kind that sounds like a heartbeat, and the soft thump of Scout's tail against his dog bed by the stove. The sunlight has moved across the table and is now touching the edge of the check, lighting up the ink. He thinks about the math. He always thinks about the math, because when you make $16.40 an hour, math is not an abstract exercise. It's a daily negotiation between what you need and what you have. He thinks about the truck, the alternator that's been grinding since November, the battery that takes 3 tries on cold mornings, the inspection sticker that expired in December, and that he drives past the police station hoping no one notices. He thinks about Birdie's school lunch account, the balance that drops to zero every 2 weeks like clockwork, the automated email from the school that says, "Your child's account has insufficient funds," that arrives with the precision of a machine that does not know or care that the man receiving the email has already done the math and the math does not work. He thinks about the boots, the left one with the crack, the right one that's still good but won't be good forever, because boots, like everything else in a life built on $16.40 an hour, are on a timer. He picks up the check. He folds it carefully and puts it in the breast pocket of his flannel shirt, the pocket closest to his heart, not because he's sentimental, but because it's the pocket that zips. "Thank you," he says. "Don't thank me. Thank Walter. He's the one who taught me that the right thing to do with money is to give it to people who've earned it. I didn't earn this. I walked 9 miles. Margaret looks at him with the direct, severe clarity of a woman who has lived long enough to know exactly what things are worth. "Wade," she says, "in 79 years, I have met exactly 2 men who would have walked 9 miles in a blizzard for a stranger's dog. One of them built this house. The other one is sitting at his table drinking his coffee. You earned it." Wade looks at the check. "The number is enough to fix the truck, replace the boots, fill the refrigerator for 3 months, and put a deposit on the boot repair for the future pair that doesn't exist yet. The number is not life-changing in the way that lottery tickets are life-changing. It will not buy a house or eliminate worry or transform his circumstances overnight. But it is the difference between surviving and breathing, between treading water and swimming, between looking at the month ahead with dread and looking at it with something close to calm. I walked 9 miles, Wade says quietly. That's all I did. That's all you did, Margaret repeats. And it was everything. Thank you for watching this story. If it reminded you that the distance between who we are and who we could be is sometimes measured in miles walked through the dark for someone we've never met, please share it. Subscribe to Untold Hearts for more stories about ordinary people who do extraordinary things when no one asks them to. And tell us in the comments, what's the longest walk you've ever taken for someone else? 3 months later. April. The snow has melted. The orchard behind Margaret's house is in bloom, pink and white apple blossoms against a blue sky. The branches that looked like handwriting in January now covered in petals that fall in the breeze like confetti. Wade pulls into the driveway in his truck, the truck that now starts on the first try because the alternator and battery have been replaced. His boots are new. His gloves have no holes. In the passenger seat, Birdie is pressing her face against the window. "Is that the dog?" she whispers. Scout is bounding across the lawn toward the truck. His paws are healed. His fur is brushed. His tail is moving at a speed that suggests it might detach from his body entirely. Birdie opens the door before Wade can stop her. She drops to her knees on the grass, and Scout is on her immediately, licking her face, pressing his head against her chest, tail wagging with the abandon of a dog who has found something new to love. "Dad," Birdie says, her face buried in Scout's fur. "Dad, he's the best dog I've ever met." "He's the only dog you've ever met." "He's still the best." Margaret is standing on the porch. She watches Birdie and Scout on the lawn, and her face does the thing. The settling, the release, the look of someone who has been alone in a big house and is, for the moment, not alone. Wade walks up the porch steps. He's been coming to Margaret's house every Saturday for the past 3 months. He fixes things. The back gate, the one with the broken latch that Walter meant to repair, the porch railing that was loose, the kitchen faucet that dripped. He doesn't charge. She feeds him. He brings Birdie. They eat lunch in the kitchen with sunlight, and Birdie reads to Scout from whatever book she's carrying that week. And Margaret listens from her chair and doesn't say much and doesn't need to because the house is no longer silent. Margaret has done things too. She called Birdie's school. She spoke to the principal. She established the Walter Ellsworth Education Fund, a trust that pays for school supplies, field trips, and winter coats for every child at Birdie's school whose family earns below the county median income. She did not put her name on it. She put Walter's. He would have done it himself, she told Wade, if he'd known. He just didn't know. None of us know until someone shows us. Wade stands on the porch. Margaret hands him a mug of coffee, the same brand from the gas station, brewed in the same pot, tasting the same way it always does, like warmth and sunlight and the specific mercy of being seen. Birdie is on the lawn with Scout. The dog is on his back, legs in the air, Birdie rubbing his belly with both hands. Her laughter carries across the orchard like the apple blossoms that drift on the breeze. Light, persistent, beautiful. "Margaret," Wade says. "Yes?" "Thank you." "For the coffee?" "For the everything." Margaret looks at the lawn, at Birdie, at Scout, at the orchard in bloom, at the world that existed before a man knocked on her door at 1:45 in the morning, holding everything she had left. "You walked 9 miles, Wade." "Yeah." "In a blizzard." "Yeah." "For a dog you'd never met, to a house you'd never seen, for a woman you didn't know." "Yeah." Margaret sips her coffee. The wedding band glints in the April sun. "Walter would have liked you," she says. Wade nods. He drinks his coffee. On the lawn, Birdie is lying on her back in the grass with Scout pressed against her side, the two of them looking up at the sky, counting something. Clouds, maybe, or blossoms, or the birds that circle the orchard in the late morning light. She is 7 years old. She has a dog now, not officially, not on paper, but in the way that matters. Scout comes to Flat Street on Wednesdays and Sundays. Margaret drives him over. She stays for dinner. Wade cooks. Birdie sets the table. 3 places now, not 2. On the refrigerator, held up by a magnet shaped like a blueberry, is a drawing Birdie made in crayon. A man walking through a snowstorm with a dog in his arms. The man is smiling. The dog is smiling. The snow is blue. Underneath, in wobbly 7-year-old handwriting, it says, "My dad walked 9 miles for a dog. That's how you know is brave." Asterisk. The spelling is wrong. Everything else is right.